An early spring flowering shrub that is quite common in a lot of older landscapes is the lilac. This is a plant that usually has a bit of nostalgia associated with it. For a lot of us, this is a plant that our parents or our grandparents grew in their garden years ago. So when we see the flowers or when we smell them, it sort of conjures up memories maybe of our childhood. So for that reason, a lot of us still have them in our gardens today. Whenever they're in full bloom, the outer periphery is just covered with these clusters of extremely fragrant flowers. We can take a bouquet of lilac blooms indoors and really makes our homes smell great. Lilac plants are very tough, especially when it comes to cold, drought, and poor soil. In fact, we sometimes see lilac shrubs at old home sites where each spring the lilac blooms grace the plants and maybe the house has long since collapsed or been taken away. Lilac plants prefer the northern states more so than the south. We see them all the way up to North Dakota, but we hardly see them at all south of the Dallas area. In fact, they need the cool weather chilling to set their flower buds. So for this reason, if you live in the southeastern part of Oklahoma, your lilacs may not flower reliably year after year. Well, when it comes to pruning lilacs, the best time to do that is immediately after they finished flowering, and that's because they set their flower buds on wood that grows in the previous summer and fall. So you don't want to prune them at all after July or August. But just come out and remove the dead wood. You can also cut back some of the older trunks or stems all the way back to the ground and let those new stems rejuvenate the plant from inside there. You can also come out after the plant's flowered and remove all those faded flower structures. Just don't let those go to seed and put any energy into making seed. We'll just take all those off and that will strengthen the plant. Now if you want to severely prune back your lilac to rejuvenate it, I suggest making sure that the plant is in a good state of health. Maybe for a year or two before you do that. Make sure the plant is well watered, maybe give it a little bit of fertilizer and mulch it if possible. Then you can come in, cut it way back and let the plant regrow and know that it won't flower for a year or two that well after it's been cut back. But after that, it should be fine. Lilacs should be planted out in full sun. If you put them in the shade, they can have some problems with powdery mildew, especially if they're crowded. Now, after they bloom, they don't have a lot to offer in the landscape, so you might think about that before you decide where to put one in your yard. You can use them to screen off an area. They work well to do that. Well, this is the Persian lilac, but I've got a few others that I'd like to show you. This species of lilac is the common lilac. And like the Persian lilac, it's one that we see a lot of in a lot of the old gardens. Some of the main differences are, you can see here with a branch of the Persian lilac I have, the leaves are a little broader, a little rounder. They almost look like small redbud leaves. And they're a little bit fuzzy, just a tiny bit of pubescence on the surface of the leaves. The flowers also look a little bit different. Those of the common lilac are more in compact or tight cones, whereas the Persian lilac's flowers are a little more open or loose. The common lilac gets a little bit larger than the Persian lilac, but has pretty much the same delicious fragrance. This is a Manchurian lilac, and this specific one is called Miss Kim. That's the cultivar name. And as you can see, it hasn't bloomed yet. This is one that blooms a few weeks later than our other lilacs. It's a plant that is somewhat dwarf in stature. It usually only gets about 4 to 5 feet by about an equal spread. The buds you can see are sort of a dark purple right now, but these will open up to a pale lavender blue. The Miss Kim Manchurian lilac, a little bit later blooming than our others. The final lilac I want to show you is this one. This is the cut leaf lilac, and it doesn't look much like any of the other lilacs that we've looked at today. It's got similar flowers, but the leaves, as you can see, have several lobes. have that cut look to them. So these leaves are very much different than your typical lilac leaves. And the foliage in and of itself gives this plant a little bit more in the fact that after it flowers, it gives us a little more interest in the garden. The cut leaf lilac doesn't have quite the fragrance as some of our other lilacs, but it is a nice plant. It's very compact, very dense, small type shrub, and a good one to have in the garden. It's not just readily available in the nursery industry, but you may be able to find it from a specialty mail order source or on the internet or somewhere like that. Well, remember to not prune your lilacs until after they finished blooming, and I hope you enjoy these beautiful, nostalgic plants with this wonderful fragrance.